and welcome. Today I have a special guest, Naushad, who is willing to ask his communication questions so that all of you can learn. So that's how brave he is. So I first want to say thank you, Naushad, for being a brave soul.
Thank you so much, and it's just so good to see your face.
Well, thank you. So full disclosure, I knew Naushad back when I was in San Francisco, and so it's been a few years, but when I contacted him and said, hey, do you have some communication questions, anything that you'd like to talk about? He said, sure. So what's been on your mind?
Well, I've been, going through a lot of change and transformation over the last year and change.
Yeah.
So a lot of things have changed in my life in terms of work and where I'm living and relationships. I went through a pretty big breakup a little over a year ago. So, for me, this has been a year of really questioning myself in terms of, who am I and, what do I want in life and what my purpose is. And so I've been kind of doing some soul searching in that regard and having to go outside of my comfort zone. So that's kind of been what's happening with me in the last year. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think is most top of mind that you want to work on? What aspect of all of that change would you like to start with first?
Well, I think for me, it's kind of digging down into, I think maybe some of the underlying, maybe beliefs that I have about myself. For example, one of the, maybe insecurities that I may have is like, am I good enough? And that's in kind of various different aspects of my life. But one thing I've kind of thought about in terms of how I approach my life and my work on a day-to-day basis of, I look back at when I was younger in my teens and my early 20s of like really trying to prove myself to people. And also along those lines, I've kind of seen myself as a people pleaser. Like I want to help others because I want people to like me, but kind of digging down deeper, it's maybe because like I don't think I'm good enough. So that's
Naushad, you've got a lot of wisdom here, a lot of wisdom. So this idea of wanting to please other people, should we explore that?
Yeah, let's explore that.
All right, let's start there. So when is it that you notice yourself giving up what you value or what you believe in to turn yourself into a pretzel to please someone else? Give me one example.
I mean, could be like something as simple as, even one of my friends or even at work, like asking me for my time, when I may have a lot of things going on in the day or in the upcoming week, basically asking a favor of me.
And you typically say what?
I typically say yes. Like, I'll do it.
Yeah, you're going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes.
And one of the most important things for you to know is your yes means nothing if you don't have a no. If you don't know how to say no, your yes actually doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And I've become a little bit more aware of this, I would say.
And how so?
Last year. Well, I think for a long time, it was just like a gut response. Okay, yes, I'm going to do that project. Or I'm going to take that client for you, even when it's maybe during my lunch break or because I need to, like, I want to make you happy. Right. So I'm going to take that hour out of my day and I'm going to work with your client and I'm going to sub for you when you're maybe have something else going on. And I would say that.
And what did you want when you said yes and you were going to give up that time? Maybe not even consciously, but subconsciously, what did you want for having done that?
I think I wanted my colleague or friend in that moment to like me more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's happened after you do that over and over again?
I think there's a sense of feeling tired or burnt out at some times, or at the end of the day, especially one thing I've kind of been more aware of is, at the end of the day, like wishing, oh, there are all these other things that I wanted to do for me. For example, having a little bit more time to read in the evening, or having a little bit more time to actually, make my own dinner because I wanted to do that, that
but you're too exhausted now. You're too exhausted because you did all this stuff for everybody else.
Yeah.
All right, so Naushad, since you are a single and available man, and there are going to be lots of women watching this that are going to like the news that you had a big breakup a year ago, I want you to tell me how this shows up in relationship for you.
Well, I think so right now in my relationships with friends and family, it's maybe giving maybe more of my time, or maybe agreeing to do something, like go do a certain activity, where for me it's maybe not like a hell yes, I want to do this, but it's like, okay, like maybe I want to go do that right now, but I don't know, like I'll just say yes because I want to please them.
Yeah, because you want to avoid the conflict is what you're doing, right? You're trying to avoid conflict, except this is the deal. Let's say I'm the one asking you for this, and you want to make sure you keep the peace between me and you. The conflict doesn't go away between me and you. What happens is you take it away from me and you because you say yes to me. So I'm like, great, awesome, Naushad, so glad you'll take that client, do this thing for me, whatever it is. And then you swallow the conflict and you say, great, I'll live with the conflict inside of me so I don't have to deal with it between you and me.
Yeah.
So the conflict, I want to make sure that everybody listening knows the conflict doesn't go away.
Right.
It's just that you've agreed to internalize it rather than acknowledge it between us. And if that's what you do, so the answer to that is learning to lean into conflict and learning to feel confident there. Because once you do that, you will lean into it when it's between me and you, and it'll never have to go back inside you. All right, now take it to love, Naushad. Tell me, take it away. How does this look in love?
How does this look in love? Well, I don't have any recent examples, but...
That's all right. I'm sure you have good patterns in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think, looking back at relationships, it's, my tendency is to, I think, place another person, right, as higher importance than myself, right? So whether it is doing an errand for someone, whether it is, maybe going out of my way to make something, I feel like for me, I have that tendency to put, someone I love, like really, really high importance when I'm not really thinking about what it is that I need in that moment, or I need like right then. I mean, I have an example, this is not a relationship, but this is my brother.
Okay. All right, but hold on, before we leave relationship.
Okay.
That means you're going to date very strong women.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's true.
And these very strong women have come into your life on a level of your soul, this is my belief, but a level for your soul to grow and learn how to stand up for Naushad. And when you don't, that experience of you caving each time will be the contributing factor to why things don't work out in the end. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense.
Because eventually either you'll develop a resentment, or you'll start feeling that this is uneven, or they may not feel like there's enough of a challenge, or something like this will start because there's an uneven balance of power, because you're giving up your power in the name of trying to please someone else, and really where you're going to be happy, I would guess, and you can tell me because I might be wrong, but would be at a place where it's not always even, but there's a similar feeling of personal power together, where you're kind of riding at the same level. Sometimes, someone has a little more power. Sometimes you have a little, but for the most part, what you're doing is you're giving away your personal power each time you make that choice. Does that make sense?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right. So let's take a moment to just say, so far, what were your takeaways? What takeaways have you had?
Well, takeaways for me is, first thing that comes up is just because you avoid a conflict in the short term doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to avoid any internal conflict later on.
In fact, they're going to grow.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing for me, and the way that you said it that way, because I've been conflict avoidant for a long time, for most of my life, and so for me, that idea of okay, I don't want to make someone upset right now, or I don't want to make them unhappy now because I want them to like me, but then I'm kind of hiding or not showing what I'm truly feeling right now.
And by the way, you're not going to like you when you look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're really worried about other people not liking you, but the truth is you look at the man in the mirror and you think to yourself, why did I say yes? Why didn't I say anything? What, Nashad? So there's a way that you lose respect with yourself as you do not stand up for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. So I know some of you watching right now have this issue as well, where you give up yourself in the face of another. What I want to make sure I convey is, do I think it's important to compromise? Do I think it's important to give in a relationship? Absolutely. Yeah. But when it becomes, you got to look underneath why you're doing what you're doing. And when you are doing it so that you can avoid conflict with somebody else, remember, all you're doing is swallowing that conflict inside you. And the most important thing is unresolved conflict inside you, that's a time bomb ticking away. Yeah. And if you don't resolve it, it will show up in your body some other way. I've seen it in my patients as heart attacks, strokes, pneumonias, all sorts of ways that your body in the end has to express that which we don't express ourselves. So I want to thank you, Nashad, for being an amazing guest, and I would love to have you on another time.
Thank you, Neha.
All right.